So, Mr. Kalden Davies, a massive warm welcome onto the Soul Sync podcast.
Thank you.
It's a delight to have you here. It is a delight. And well, before we even hit the record button, we said that the time is now to do this. It is this exact moment, in this exact moment of eternity. And we even had that confirmed by a rainbow outside the window, which is beautiful.
Indeed.
So, I'm going to give people an introduction as to how we come to do this podcast together. So, Mr. Kalden Davies, I don't know why I keep calling you Mr. Kalden Davies. It just sounds so nice. Master Kalden Davies. We met because your Nan, your beautiful Nan, who is a wonderful medium called Eileen Davis, so we came at this from two different worlds. I had been, trying to develop my mediumship, finally found, a tutor that I had in such high regards. And then I happened to meet you on a course of your Nan's where our kind of worlds cross. And I have to say, before we even let Cowden get a word in edgeways, he said a lot of things in my time that have blown my mind. And I just want to give a caveat that Cowden is 19 years old, but probably one of the oldest souls I feel I've ever met. So I think we're going to have an interesting time today. So welcome onto the Soul Sync, firstly.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I love Jason very much. I'm very excited for this. It's truly an honor. There's no one quite as interesting and funny, with a great laugh. Now,
Cowden, I couldn't describe you better myself. Thank you very much. Right. I want to ask you, because you're 19 years old, but you've said many things to me that it's taken me to 38 to even compute and learn some of these lessons. So I want to try and uncover in some of this episode how you have got to a place of such knowing as to what some of these worldly truths about existence, consciousness, what is this, place that we're in, many questions. So I want to start by saying, that when you first if we go back 3 years ago, who was the Cowden of 3 years ago versus the Cowden of now, and what's changed in that time?
Good start. Yeah, because really it feels as if though my life took off around 3 years ago.
So at 16 years old.
16 years old,
Right.
yes. So so around that time I was, very enrolled in school. Being a Scottish citizen, I went to a lovely academy called Kemney Academy. And I just didn't like it. It didn't fit. It didn't feel true. And this started to bring about an inner sadness, an inner wanting for something else. But systematically, I was forced into the school system. And now, as a little breath of fresh air that the universe decided, I had no idea what was going to unfold this very fine day. But when I was 16 years old, I managed to acquire something called LSD, which some of you might have heard of.
Yes.
And yes, are you familiar?
I have never taken LSD because do you know what? I kind of wish I had, because it's kind of it's part of I'm doing a rubbish job at explaining this already. It's like part of a mushroom, so it's like a psychedelic.
Yes, it comes from ergot. It's the 25th element that was extracted from ergot, and it's extremely psychoactive. When we talk about psychoactive substances, most of them, as a chemical, range between the 1 to 25 to 50 milligram range, whereas LSD is in micrograms in UG. So you have to be very careful, and you have to make sure you surrender. Now, yes. Okay.
Oh no, I was gonna say, so what made you, at 16 years old, even come to know what this was, what you're doing? Why did you even want to?
I didn't. Yeah,
Oh.
that was the thing. I had only smoked cannabis, and it had helped me greatly. And my intuition, like the inner gut knowing, steered towards LSD rather than something that party drugs of my area like ketamine or cocaine and alcohol. They didn't do anything for me uh, because you have to feel bad after taking them.
Mm.
And when you take them, you don't become into a state of knowing, you become into a state of ego. You're dissolved into the moment in a way of power, in a way of wanting and needing. Whereas with
Mm.
LSD, it dissolves boundaries and it shows that there is inherently no separation except for the separation the mind places on things. And this experience as a 16-year-old, I tell you, was truly phenomenal. Truly phenomenal. I mean, not just the beautiful moving colors, the breathing nature, but the knowing, the instantaneous ability to ask a question and simultaneously know the answer. Because in truth, all answers are already contained in the question.
Mm.
And when you leave a linear space-time continuum, you could say, and you leave this boundary of needing to ask a question and have it delivered to you at a later time, you are instantly in call and response with truth. And truth doesn't die, truth doesn't change, truth is eternal. So you glimpse what is eternal in these experiences, and you find that you're eternal,
Mm.
which
Quite a
is mind-blowing.
revelation to find out at 16 years old, when most people are down the bowling alley and at the local cinema. So
Yes, well, see, it sounds all sunshine and rainbows,
it
but that's the
does.
thing. With LSD comes Kali, the goddess of disillusionment, you could say. Not literally. This is just my perspective and understanding from a more Hindu background of study. But Kali, she dissolves powerful uh, illusion, and that's what LSD done for me. And that is not easy to experience because you
Mm.
have to die into life repeatedly. Oh, you think the world is this way and you believe it with your whole being? It's not. And thinking it's that way will
Mm.
only cause you suffering. So you must let go of being right and let go and give it all away and keep giving it away until you reach a state of equilibrium where you can listen to the universe and respond and not preemptively decide what the universe is going to say and then what you're going to respond with.
What does that look like in day-to-day life then? Because how do I know that because I'm going to stay with that question first of all, because I have a
Mm-hmm.
tendency to go down rabbit holes, and I was about to do my two thing while I'm asking three
Okay.
questions in
Yes.
one, so I'll stop there.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes. So in your everyday life, that's a great question. Now, I can only really tell you what it's like internally because the reflection of that is different for each of us. But a change in relationships, when you inherently feel unworthy in the core of your being, as fundamentally before this experience, I was a materialist. And that I was a scientific materialist. So I believed that science would give me all the answers, and that fundamentally all that existed was what that I could touch, feel, and see. And this is what was so mind blowing because what comes along with that baggage is an inherent apathy and a depression in life. Because if you truly relate to life as meaningless and that it's not even created with meaning, and you have no meaning, and if you think that the world's just going and we're just a glimpse in eternity and it's all meaningless and there's nothing for me, it's so easy to get lost in that because it feeds the ego so much. um, and when
Mm.
you have this experience and those are dissolved, it reflects around in your life instead of being that entropic, instead of consuming energy and having energy come to you and you contort it and you feed it down back into yourself and you don't medium for it and express it back into the universe, you become in a state of feeding from people. So you see people who give you love, people who give you happiness, you just want more and more and more and you're not satisfied with it.
Mm.
and
I,
and you draw yourself to people who reflect you, so you draw yourself into darker situations because on some level you believe this is what you are worth, because you don't have an inherent divinity, you could say. You
I was going to say that that is how the majority of the population live, is in that state of
Amen.
being. Because I guess, how, because I'm going to say this from the get go. I've never done a psychedelic, and I've had many conversations with Cowden about this. Um, I have this internal battle because I've had psychosis in the past about I would love to do one because everything that you've described gets me so excited. And do you know what? I do think I'm going to eventually do one, probably with you, Calton Davis, to be honest. But but it's taken me all of this time myself to this age to start to understand that. But that's because I lived in that world for such a long time of, because I'd grown up with, not from a poor background, but certainly, not, one with loads of possessions. So I detached, money and success and all these things. Like Ramdas puts it, the spacesuit one wears. And I thought the better my spacesuit and the better my space apparatus and toys, all problems would be solved. But obviously we know that's not the case. But then that's a painful realization that some of what you learned in those experiences at 16, I've come to learn and realize through probably 10 years of, painful growth. But I guess the interesting thing is, so you have this experience, but how do you integrate that in a world where most people are that way?
Yes, yes, that's a great question, because without integration, this is just getting high, and
Yes.
you can't function being high, because I don't know if many of you have tried a true dose of psychedelics, but I could barely speak to another human, and if I did, they'd be scared, um, because these are states so deeply internal, that you would never dream of trying to contact somebody in your in the waking state. Now, when I go to the core of the psychedelic issue, which I think is just to brush over too quickly, it's what life is truly about. Now, if we break down the words psychedelic, psyche, and delic, psyche meaning mind and delic to mean to manifest, this is a mind manifesting experience. So you take these, and just as a very small like example of what they do is they dim something in our neurology called the default mode network, which is our default mode. It's the patterns of neurology that we follow, and we craft an identity around these patterns because our fundamental, we are pattern beings. And these patterns are taught to us. They're spacesuits that we are adorned from what we're told in our life. And it's not true. And that's the thing. This is other people. We've given our power from an age we were helpless to do so. And we give our power to these ideas that aren't true and that don't exist. That I need to be successful before I can be happy. And that I need to be X rich so my family will love me. Or I need to be kind all the time. And all these limiting beliefs, every limiting belief, because even for something that it might sound crazy, you don't want to be kind all the time. Well, you're lying to yourself if you think you're kind all the time, because the human experience is not just this lovey-dovey hugs and kisses. It's also fear, and as much as we have love, we have fear, and that's all that really life is about. And when you break anything down to its fundamentals, and you find in the psychedelic experience that life is a dance between love and fear, and it's a dance that can be chosen in any moment. And every single moment you can choose love or fear. And that's when integration comes into play. Because when you come into these experiences, you see love. And then you see how love is twisted into the most painful, painstaking fear. And you see that it's both you. And you see that you have the capacity for all of it. And you only were running off a specific frequency, a specific mode, your default mode, which you were taught to run on. But that is not you. That's an idea of you.
It's because there's so many things I want to talk to you about, and even when you're talking, Carlton, I'm thinking, right, shall I stop you now? Because I want to ask about that point, that point, that
Yes.
point. But because it's very, very, very interesting. But you know, really have got to a point where recently I've really started to to have a level of wisdom, which is, you know, the default mode is, you know, we grow up as well, we come into the world as a baby, and we go through this growing up experience where, you know, we crave the mum, where we crave the love, the caregivers. We learn
Mhm.
right from wrong, we get rewarded, we build up beliefs, then society tells us, you know, what we should be, how we should act, and what success looks like. And we go through
Mhm.
this very, very, very complex set of beliefs and you know, how we perceive ourselves. And to what the psychedelics are doing is they are breaking you know, down this ego, which even now, you know, I find it very difficult to you know, get control of my ego, but I'm very aware of it now because
Mhm.
recently I've kind of got to a place in my meditation journey where I can shut the bloody mind up for 2 minutes. The ego, be
Oh.
quiet. You have an important job, ego. Your job is to observe my breath. It is to observe it carefully. That is your job and your job only. Ha! I have to keep these things simple, Cowden, you know.
Yeah, of
Um,
course, of course.
so it's worth saying as well, because there's still going to be people listening to this who, and I honestly think there is so much value in psychedelics, and there is so many studies as well at the moment, I have to say as well, where they are using them to treat depression. So much stuff that I think, you know, has been known for a very long time, but it's now getting introduced into Western medicine, and there's being a lot more research done on them. Um, so there's obviously lots of different psychedelics as well. And like I said, there's so many places I could go because one of the experiences, and we talked about this before in this podcast, is ayahuasca.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh, um, so, because that's been a big part of your journey is going to ayahuasca ceremonies.
Yes, truly. Right. So, just for a small lowdown, for everyone, uh, ayahuasca in its base, it has many names across different traditions, but it's mainly a vine called Banastopieris caapi and a leaf called Psychosis viridis. And one is an MAOI inhibitor, which is an enzyme in our gut which breaks down serotonin and DMT and many other neurochemicals. And DMT, if you guys are not familiar, is the spirit molecule. It's made in our brains constantly, it's produced in our lungs, and so many other species and even plants contain DMT. It's endogenous to our serotonin metabolism. And serotonin is a neurotransmitter which we could not live without. If you don't have enough serotonin, you become depressed. If you have too little, you'll die. These are how fundamental DMT is to our existence, being in these pathways. Now, when you drink the ayahuasca, because it's inhibiting the MAOI, so you can ingest it orally, and there's a lot of DMT in this, not just DMT, but 5-MeO DMT is also present, 4 to 5 times stronger than NN-DMT, which is the base molecule. And when I tell you, there is no words. There is no words. There's not. There's barely even words to describe LSD or the psilocybin, the mushroom experience. But this goes beyond that. Because
Why
when
is there not words? Why can't you put it into some kind of words?
because then it would be to limit it.
Mm.
And it's infinite, and it shows you infinity, and it shows you that you are truly nothing. And when you are realize you are nothing, you become everything. It's the duality that it shows you. It shows you the paradox of existence, and it knows. So this might be quite hard to digest for some people, but it's it's an entity. It's an information body that is infinitely more intelligent than any of us. And some people might feel tight hearing that, oh, a plant's more intelligent than me. And I promise you, it is so much more intelligent than any of us will ever be.
Why
Um,
would you say it's more intelligent?
because it knows. And we don't fucking know, right? None of us know anything. And
I
we're
don't have a clue what
lying.
I had for dinner yesterday, Carlton. I couldn't tell you that. Very limited things, but yes, carry on. We don't
Yes.
know.
But you don't know what that dinner is, truly. It's just a symbol you're putting over food which you're ingesting. And food is just another label. You don't actually know the essence. You just call the picture that looks like food food. And ayahuasca shows you that everything that you call and label is divine. It's yourself. It's Shakti. It's the universal energy which pervades all of existence, and it pulls you into Shiva, into awareness, into cosmic awareness. So you are then Shiva dancing with Shakti, which is enlightenment. This is an enlightened state, and you still have your memory. This is the thing, because you're ingesting it pharmacologically, biologically. It's going into your body. It's being ingested. It's interacting with your body, which makes you throw up. This is no easy experience. This is a journey. This is this is this is really it's a journey.
At this point, a lot of people will probably be getting off your ride, Carlton. A lot of
But
listeners, you'd be sick. What
yeah,
sort of experience is this?
see, and this is how ego filled we've become, that
Yes.
we aren't humble enough to admit that we're ill, and that as a society, as a psyche, as a collective consciousness and unconsciousness, we are ill, and we're drowning in our own suffering and our own illness, because we're unconscious of how the systems of our being and the systems of the universe work, because we're not listening to truth, and we are listening to ego, which is fear. The ego only lives off of fear. And when I mentioned earlier love or fear, the cosmic dance, is it love or fear? The ego only exists through fear, and love will relax, kill, and destroy the ego. And by destroy, I mean transform, because the ego is inherent in the human experience. There is no killing the ego. That is a trick played by the ego to keep itself alive. You cannot
Mhm.
kill the ego. The ego is mind. The ego is how we interact with each other. But you can be in love, which is recognition that everything is one united field of energy expressing itself in a homogeneous field.
So your basic, this is what I was going to ask you. So you make this conscious choice, and these experiences that you have had and people have with psychedelics, it kind of shows you that.
Mm.
How do you live your life through love and choosing to, because even getting control of the ego is a bloody nightmare, I tell people to read that Monkey Mind book a lot, because that was the first
Mm.
ever sort of doorway I had into thinking, what's going on here? Why can't I get control of my thoughts, and why am I going off in, you know,
You make a perfect point, Jason. And this is another trap, because you cannot control the ego. This is the thing. It's an illusion to think you control anything. We control absolutely nothing, and that's freedom. Is knowing that you have no control, and only once you recognize that, you then gain control.
mm.
It's a paradox, you know.
How would you say, if you were trying to, because sometimes you might, to live with no control, how do you do that in this modern world?
You surrender to truth. You see that everything that causes tension in your body, in your being, in your in your intuition, in your belly, in your heart, in your mind, you give it all away because you know tension, that fear is a choice. And it's just a choice that you keep choosing because it's what's familiar to you. And because we're beings of pattern, we attract what feels safe. And if all that we've known is fear, we will keep choosing fear because we don't even know that love exists.
Do you know what? It does feed really nicely into it. I talked about this and the little positivity experiment your nan did on one of the courses, actually. And it really is so effective, the whole positivity band. And I've mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it again because it's such a good experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a bracelet, a band, whatever it may be, on one wrist. Every time you think a thought that's not very nice, a fear-based thought, using Kalden's, what we just said about, you choose to, exist in love or fear. So you choose to, am I having fear-based thoughts or love-based thoughts? So if you have fear-based thought, catch it and then move the band to the other wrist. And every time you have a fear-based thought, it has to move wrist. And it really makes you, I didn't realize until I'd done that, honestly, how much I was in kind of control fear mode, because I wasn't even aware of my thoughts being fitting into one or two categories. And actually, when I thought about it, even a thought like, what am I going to have for dinner? There is a level of fear or love in that.
There is, yes, because you're then imposing condition. And where there's condition, there is not unlimited, unconditional love occurring. And some people might have a different interpretation of love than me. And I think it's fair to try and find even ground with this word, because to throw all these words around, it doesn't really mean anything if we don't have common ground. So when I think of love, I think of truth. I think of the field that arises when you let go of everything you think is real. And when you let go of everything that you think is real, you stumble upon what is really real. Because what is real is objectively real, and what you are experiencing is subjectively real. You are looking at it, and then you from your small droplet in the ocean perspective look at the world and go, I know how it is. And you don't. No one knows how it is. And that's the truth. And that's one scary thing to admit. And that's why a lot of people turn away from it, that no one is steering the boat. No one knows what is going on. When we look at our leaders today, the political leaders, they're children. I mean, they're like angsty teenagers, like, oh, you bomb me, well, I'll bomb you. My bombs will get you first because I spend more money on protecting myself and trying to cause harm to others than I do helping humanity. Now, you the just one example. I'm from Scotland, but I see a lot about the US because it's in bits right now, and we have Trump to thank for that. And I saw that if the US took 2% of its yearly military budget, they could cure homelessness. And if they took 3%, they could cure hunger and homelessness in their whole country. But they don't, because these systems of inequality require fear. And they require that we don't unite. And we'll find that, like with the Vietnam War back in the 60s, when LSD made its first rounds, where a lot of people might know LSD from, the government imposed a war on drugs. Now, at first, this might sound, if all you ever know is a war on drugs, that sounds reasonable. That sounds really reasonable. Yeah, a war on drugs, which means a war on consciousness. And I hope you all understand this, because drugs only interfere with consciousness, and they change certain neurochemical switches which allow certain things to occur and turn off certain things that occur. And when we turn off certain dials, we see that we are compassion at heart, and that love and fear is the mind without the heart is fear, and love is is the heart without the mind. And to be liberated, you need to have a clear mind and an open heart, because they work together, not apart. And when we say control the mind, we mean open the heart and let your mind see clearly. Because when we're not seeing clearly is when we judge another person. Because we're not looking at their story. We're not looking at our story. We're not looking at how we feel today, and that impacts how we frame another person. We're not looking. I see people passing people on the street who are sat homeless, and they can't acknowledge them. And this is a really deep inner suffering that we're all not able to meet yet. And just steering onto a bit of politics now, I have a quote here. I have a quote from A Course in Miracles. The lighting's not
Great
the
book. Do you know what? Just before you say the quote,
yes,
this Course of Miracles book. Oh my God, we haven't actually. I've alluded to it a few times on this show. Say the quote and then tell us what the hell this book is. Because
okay,
it's
so
like something you get from Hogwarts. I've started looking at it like a bloody spell book.
it is, yes, it is. It's like the Bible if it was written today, because it doesn't use parable and symbol. It tells you how it is through words, which are the most tight symbols we have today. And this quote is it might take a few repeated listens to actually hear this quote, and I don't fully understand it, and that's how I know it's powerful. Now, it's perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. Now,
Read that back to us again.
yes, so perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist.
It's a big one, that, isn't it?
It is. It's one you actually can't. It's like the Tao Te Ching. It's something you read and you don't know. You have no idea, but you feel a resemblance of the truth it holds.
Yeah.
But it's scary because the reason it doesn't come through us is because of our model of how the world is. And we're so ingrained into fear being real that we don't even for a second glimpse to the reality where only perfect love exists. And only when we forget perfect love exists, we experience this fear state, which is not a real state. It is only the absence of knowing of truth.
Yeah. And the problem is the more the way the world is going at the moment is we're living in more and more of a world of fear. So for someone to even compute that and think, well, hang on a minute, it's the lack of love that's caused it. Well, I'm sure when you think about it, it's just like common sense, isn't it?
No,
Like,
it really is common sense, but people don't like common sense when it defies their identity. And this is the core of thick neurology when we have such an identity surrounding a political ideology or a religious belief. I mean, all of these are limiting. None of them are true. As Paramahansa says, Paramahansa Yogananda, if any of you know of him, it's the finger pointing at the moon. You can only point. You can never know the true essence until you realize love. And then you realize that you are both the finger and the moon and all the space between.
because in a moment, because I've started reading the Course of Miracles firstly, and it made another point, and I think this is it, because you think, okay, right, how have we got to this point of existence right now? And the well, you think, well, it's why are we fighting? We should have love, of course. Why are we fighting? It's I sort of think it's the thing that seems very simple in essence, but it says that the book also makes a very good point in the first few pages where it says that we live in this world of kind of perception of it's love, fear, material possessions and whatever, and it's this world where we live through what's the scarcity principle, where there's not enough to go around and this, that, and the other.
Yes, we walk around with a lack. a lack of abundance,
Yes.
because we fail to realize that we are creation itself. And when you don't realize your creation, you are consumption,
Mm.
destruction. You're an entropic force for the universe. You take information and you consume, and you basically become a black hole.
You do. Well, it's also, I can understand why, because then what people do is they go, okay, the abundance principle. So people look at people with abundance, they chase that, that brings out even worse traits of the ego, of
Indeed,
people being, nasty to each other to acquire more.
indeed,
And
yes.
the book even says another thing which kind of blew my mind. And I'm going to do such a bad job explaining this because it's you, Kalden Davies, who said that, there's a difference between knowing something and being wise enough to explain it. And it was, I think you said that to me once. And
Mm-hmm.
then I read something else afterwards that said, if you're going to explain something to someone that doesn't know something, you need to be at the same energetic vibration of that thing it is that you're trying to explain.
Mm-hmm. You
And
need to
I
be
thought,
what you're talking about.
you do. And the book makes another really good point as well about how when you get something in your life, like money or whatever, that money has kind of come from someone else, and it's kind of like an energetic exchange kind of happens or something.
It
So
is. Yeah.
and even that myself, I was thinking, I'm going to have to reread this a few times because it makes sense. It's the book of truth.
Indeed.
But the truths are so big that the ego, even now where I am in my journey, I can't compute some of it because it's just larger than, such a
It
difficult
is.
thing for the brain, the ego to compute.
Yeah, you must die into the information. You must study it, and you must die into life, as Stephen Levine and Ramdas would say. And on the topic of abundance, there's a Ramdas line that people usually, he says that people usually confuse abundance, and they think, oh, it's abundant so I can have it. And it's no, it's abundant because you are it. And it's,
Mm.
if everything is energy, consciousness itself is energy. Anything that arises within consciousness is also energy under specific laws. Now, money is energy. Words are energy. Energy is truth. Words point at the moon. Words are fingers pointing at the moon. The reason truth can be communicated is because of the underlying energy field between our communication. It's a morphic exchange even. It's
Mm.
it's a resonant well of information which we are sharing.
Do you know what? You've just led me really nicely there onto. I wanted to talk about these morphic fields with you because I know I've alluded to them a few times on this show as well, but I've been kind of waiting for this moment for you to be here to kind of do it half justice and explaining it in a way that makes it any kind of sense. But you told me, firstly, you told me about them a few months ago, and I honestly, from the moment I played the first one, I could feel it rewiring my energy. Now, I will say at the time that I was on a mediumship course, and whenever I'm on a mediumship course, I am particularly more sensitive. So
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that they're effective anyway. Like if I play one now, I can instantly feel a change, and it's like a rewiring of the energy. So I've had a lot of success with them. I started playing one which was kind of, I think it was called the Seeker, which is probably one you've played, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I've honestly found that so many like big penny drop things, like about things I'd read, but then it all made sense. And I'm sure lots of people listening to this podcast will be like, yeah, I've had that when that thing really clicked for me about the universal life or consciousness or whatever it might be. But it's like accelerated it. So these morphic fields work, and I've been telling a lot of people about them, even people that wouldn't believe in them. Because there's a nurse I see, and she's kind of into this sort of stuff a little bit. And I thought, right, I need to give her one that she's going to be able to visibly see. And there was one to make her skin better. And
Uh,
honestly, I went in next week and saw her, and even I could tell she looked like she'd gone back 5, 10 years. And she said, honestly, Jason, what other ones have you got? I said, well, what is it you're looking for? She said, well, I'd really like to find a nice man. So then I started sending her loved ones and all sorts. She hasn't
Nice.
reported back to me she's got a partner yet, but we'll see how that journey
That's fair
goes.
enough. But then what? Then you'll have to look at what is love in that respect. I mean, when you look for a partner, you're really just looking to find the matching energy within yourself. And when you actually find that energy as a wholeness, you'll find the actual person for you to work with each other and to blossom, as if a tree needed two seeds to grow instead of just one. Um, Now,
What are the morphic fields and how did you come to discover them?
yes, great question. Now, actually, on an acid trip, I discovered them. Yes, yes. LSD. Sorry, just in case you guys aren't familiar with the slang. On an LSD experience, I had this experience where I closed my eyes and I became electromagnetic fields. And I was just like pulsating, flowing energy signals, and I saw that all of these pulsating energy signals were from a reservoir somewhere, a collective field, a collective well where all information that's already been expressed exists. And what you could say a morphic field is, and I don't want to butcher this, I will recommend you all to Rupert Sheldrake, the founder of this um, thought, the a school of thought. It's not it's not liked by mainstream science, but then like what is? I mean, not science doesn't like many things. I mean, science has only begun to bring in these medicines, which cultures have used for 3,000 years, 3,000 years, and now they're only just starting to admit that they might work. So science has a lot
We
to do.
could go down many rabbit holes about Western medicine and even about, we know, like you were saying before, I honestly believe that cancer and so many things are caused by emotions and stress and the suppressing and repressing of emotions.
It is
You need
truly.
to read Gabor Mate keeps the score. It's the body keeps the score.
Yeah,
Um,
Gabor Mate, a beautiful psychologist, so wise. I absolutely love Gabor Mate. If any of you haven't been ever familiar with his work, I recommend it wholeheartedly. He explains life so compassionately through the lens of psychology, which we can all relate to because we're all a psyche. And back on to the
back onto
talk.
the morphic
Yes,
fields.
back onto the morphic fields. So if you imagine that as a personal person, as like a person, you have a specific energy field, and our eyes are condensing this down to a physical body. But you would, if you talk about aura, you see that the everyone from the heart has an electromagnetic field that is so strong that it sits a few meters outside of the body, a few feet outside of the body, depending on the strength of the electromagnetic field or the amount of aura you have, you could say. um, and when you meet someone, you are exchanging energy signatures. You're exchanging morphogenetic information, even. And by being with each other, our cells are communicating, even though it's just words that we're talking. Our whole energy is meeting. For example, when me and Jason started this call today, it's it's the field of expression recognizing an energy it's seen before, and these fields are already familiar with each other. So we started off from a specific place. Oh, how are you? Oh, I've missed you so much. How have you been doing? Because we were already familiar with each other's morphogenetic sequencing, you could say.
Hmm.
And you can technically, if a morphic field for everything exists, then you could localize these information fields theoretically, and you could play them next to you from a device, and these would induce morphogenetic responses, which can be anything. And I don't want to butcher this line of thought, but a possible connection is the experiment where there was 100 monkeys on an island, and the people taught the monkeys to wash potatoes, to wash the dirt off of them, and what they found is once all 100 of them had communicated to each other how to do this, that there was monkeys outside of the island, out of the field of the place, that started to learn the same thing. And it kind of
Mm.
goes with, once someone has already learned something, it becomes easier for the next.
Well, do you know what's interesting about that? And what I was just thinking, even when you was explaining that, is, well, of course, that's what's happening with humans and the consciousness, because you don't come out not knowing, basic human skills. We don't come out as just like, we come out with a certain level of knowing and knowledge, don't we? Stuff that
Yeah.
is just inherent within us. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to think of an example now. There's millions, but I can't think of one on the spot. But there's
Yes.
loads.
Like some people gravitate to non-violence. That's an example.
Mm.
Some people are born and from the get-go, the thought of harming a fly or a butterfly sickens them. Whereas some people can be born with the attunement of less care for that, and they don't mind squashing flies, they don't mind killing spiders, and it's all different um, inherent
Yeah.
energy you come in with in some level. That we all come in with different inherent expressions, which you could say is soul information, is karma being recycled into form.
Mm. I would say that I'm very much like that. I don't want to kill anything, but I can't say that, if there's a common house fly, it isn't getting stuck on one of my sticky things in my plant pots. I do
That's
feel really
fair enough.
bad when I take out the fly graveyard, though, in the summer months. I do a little ceremony over the bin for it. All 400 of them. I seem to have a real fly problem in the summer. I think it's where I live. If I didn't have them, honestly, I'd just be sleeping in a mountain of flies. So tell me, Cowden, then, what? So what's so beautiful about you is you just got so much, you know, love to give, and so much of what you say is, with such a passion to want to help people. Before I ask you what's kind of next for you, sort of living your truth, living your life with love, there's going to be people listening to this that might think, look, you've made a good point about these psychedelics. I am perhaps curious. What would you direct them to do and look at?
To understand we don't have time anymore. And this is
Mm,
something I spoke to my nan about, is that we spoke about meditation and how long it takes for meditation to really bear fruits, and that alone meditation is not effective enough, because as entropy speeds up, as more and more occurs in the universe at one moment, we need to do more in every moment. We need to sorry. We need to be more in every moment. And one thing that with meditation is that you could say someone meditates for 10 years and they might learn what I learn in 2 ayahuasca experiences. And this is the scale of
mm,
difference. But the only way I can learn in the ayahuasca experience is having a grounding in meditation. So
mm.
it's not using one method, but many, because we no longer have time. I mean, we look at nature, we see that we our unconsciousness, our disconnect from nature, we're killing everything around us. I mean, the coral reefs now, they're some of the major coral reefs, they'll now die no matter what we do, because they've reached
Mm.
past a point where one of the main hosts for fish are now going to disappear
It's
because
so
of
sad, isn't it?
I know, because of what we've done and what we are still doing, and we're still feeding this because we haven't yet realized the depth of which we're connected to everything, which is a
The sooner we
problem.
wake up and realize that, the better.
Indeed, and
Um,
it's sooner, and it needs to be soon. And this is the thing. This is another topic with political liberation. This is something that comes as well, that I hear people trying to justify how society is structured. And I just want to communicate from my own heart that you are lying to yourself if you think it's a loving and supportive system. And it's a system founded on inequality and systematic oppression, which we all face. Which we all face. And I have a quote that I would like to read to you
please
about
do.
this. Now
Please do.
it's in my book. Yes. So there is a crucial difference between peace and liberation. You can be enslaved and peaceful, which is something
Mm.
we all need to recognize, because peaceful is what you could say is the white man's word for keeping us oppressed. And we're white saying this, but the people up top, the people up top who know how the system works fundamentally and keep perpetuating it. Um,
Yes, I see that because we want peace. We want peace because we don't want people pushing against
yes,
this way of existing.
and it frightens people. And this is something the Bhagavad Gita proposes: is can you have war that's holy? Can you have
Mm.
divinely recognizable war? And what is war? And what does it mean to be liberated once you've been enslaved? Because to make peace with enslavement is not enlightenment, and you will never be enlightened making peace with being oppressed. You need to be liberated, and we need to be liberated. And this is what the psychedelic experience offers. This is what the mystics all offer from every tradition. You can look into Judaism, the Kabbalah. You can look into the Vedas from Hinduism, well, Hindu schools of thought. You can look into the Bible deeply enough, and you'll see the same mystic roots of liberation. And
Mm.
liberation isn't just from chains and shackles of society. Liberation, being enslaved, means any chain we put on ourselves in every dimension we exist. Now, the psyche, the ideas we hold of ourselves, is enslavement. We're walking around every day oppressed in how we function because of ideas that we project onto other people of how we think we need to act. And we believe this so thickly that we keep looking into other people's eyes to know who we are. And
Mm.
when we look into someone else's eyes who doesn't know us, we don't know us. And it's only when we avert our gaze from another person's eyes of telling us who we are, we start to listen to the universe in every moment and see who we are. And when we listen to another that doesn't know who we are living in illusion, and we are perpetuating illusion. And illusion is limited, and illusion is suffering. And that's why the truth of these teachings, whether you come from meditative Buddhist practices, yogis, from the yogic traditions, if you come from Judaism, the mystic traditions from there, they all teach the same truth as the Native Americans learn from peyote, or the people from Brazil and Peru and other Central American countries learn from ayahuasca, and what our ancestors learned from mushroom sex rituals. Like, this is just lost knowledge, and we've been colonized, and we are bearing the fruits of colonization. And it was our far ancestors that colonized, and we are our far ancestors. We are the newest foundation for that energy to express itself. And that's why we must be liberated. We must be aware. We must bring the light to the unconscious. We must bring the conscious to the unconsciousness, the Carl Jung alchemy. We need to be alchemists of our own consciousness, and we need to turn the metaphorical lead of the unconscious into the gold of consciousness.
I that was beautiful. I completely agree with you, and I think we need to. And I think, do you know what? I was so excited to get you on here because I thought, we're going to bring up so many things, and I think we've talked about so much, and there's so many different ways and directions we could have gone with this conversation. It's
Mhm.
crazy. Tell me about your future aspirations. Tell us where you're wanting to be and go in the flow of life.
It's a great question. So, very soon, I hope to be going to work with the Ayapacha Foundation in Ecuador, their cacao retreat, their cacao plantation. A great friend of my mum, Maria, she offered me to go for like a work with them and learn Mayan tradition, to learn how a plant teacher like cacao, a very powerful information body, teaches, how it learns, learning to hold space in retreats and ceremonies, learning to be within land, to be with nature, and to learn to be liberated through music. Because I had a recent realization in my ayahuasca experience, whereas that music is where light and sound meet and where truth can be communicated most deeply. Because music, those who were dancing were thought to be crazy by those who could not hear the music. And there is always music playing. It is just, what song are you dancing to? Is it the one of fear or is it the one of love? And that is truly the journey that I will always be embarking on, that has no end. And we will all be embarking on this that has no end. It's just, when will we start to choose love? And that's when we will start to see the journey unfold, and that it's all laid out in front of us already. And for me, I want nothing more than to help people recognize that their methods are mostly built from ego, that it must be this way. It must be, this school is the way. When they all work, and they'll all work better together, like we all work better together. You know, the microbiome of our gut, it's not just a few bacterium in there doing the work. It's a whole ecosystem communicating, working, and keeping us alive. And for us to keep the world alive, we're like the gut microbiome of the Mother Gaia. And it's when we lose connection to the earth and to truth, we become cancer. Because cancer fundamentally occurs when cells believe that they are isolated and the only way to survive is to perpetuate and spread itself. And cancer in the body believes that its host is dying, and by that, it causes it directly.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, yes, yes. And and it's becoming aware, sorry, of this cancer. We are perpetuating cancerous behavior to the world. We are destroying the world so fast, and if you quiet enough, you'll hear Mother Nature screaming. Because we're supposed to be the prefrontal cortex of nature. We're the thinkers. We are not the most intelligent, and I will say this humbly. We are not intelligent. We have intelligence. But when you really meet something like the mycelial spirit, or the ayahuasca, Nishipe, you see true power, and you see that, may you meet 500,000 people in your life, say, and say you're able to at least show half of them love. Think about how much people Nishipe, ayahuasca, the mycelial spirit has met, and that it met them with truth every single time. And we can't meet each other with truth every single time. That's why these are sacred portals to information bodies, which are aspects of our own consciousness. These are not things outside of ourselves. These all arise within consciousness.
Do you know what? I think we couldn't have got more into that conversation if we tried. Do you know what? It's been such a delight to have you on here, and you'll have to come back after your Ecuador experience and tell us all about that, because I think you're leaving people on a bit of a cliffhanger, to be honest.
For sure, for sure. For sure. I mean, there's so much to communicate. We could do 10 episodes and I still wouldn't have it all out.
But trust me, I've seen you try and do talks before, and it's you just can't. There's so much you want to say, and it's so much everyone wants to hear, because it's, you know, so relevant, and it's so founded in love and truth. And with that, I thank you, Kalden Davies, for coming onto the Soul Sync.
Thank you. It's been an honor. It's been awesome. It's lovely to share space with you. Thank you very much.